How do you make your guitar sing like your favorite guitar players? What is it that gives them a signature sound and makes it so that anytime you hear Jimi Hendrix, you know it's Jimi Hendrix? When you hear John Mayer, you know it's John Mayer. When you hear Steve Vai, you know it's Steve Vai. When you hear Angus Young, you know it's Angus Young. What is it that does that? And the answer is phrasing. Phrasing is how you play the notes that you're actually playing. So it has nothing to do with which notes you choose to play, and it has everything to do with how you decide to play those notes. Developing your phrasing is going to make your playing way more interesting to listen to. It's going to make it way more expressive, and it's going to make you sound like a pro. The real big picture point behind phrasing, why we use it as guitar players, is it helps us to mimic what we do with the human voice. That's the key thing to understand about phrasing. Now, when I was starting out teaching myself, I had no idea that phrasing existed. I had never heard that term. I had no idea what was going on. I did know a few of the concepts, but I was basically in the dark. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to help you, because we're going to go over the 5 most critical phrasing concepts for any beginner guitar player to know, to understand, and to start developing so that you can develop good phrasing and sound awesome whenever you're playing guitar. And yes, this applies to acoustic guitar as well as electric guitar. So it does not matter what kind of guitar you're playing. Number 1, the most underrated and overlooked part of phrasing is simply your rhythm. So just like when we speak, we vary our rhythm with the words that we say, how we speed up or slow down our language, we add pauses and rests. We can do the exact same thing with our playing. Like I said, I think this is the most underrated part of phrasing. Most people don't pay enough attention to this. So let's show you how it looks. I've got a really simple loop here that I just played that is just 12-bar blues in A. You can play along if you want to, but here are the notes that I'm going to use. I do this with beginners all the time. This is a lot of fun because I'm going to limit the amount of notes, and I recommend that you do this too, because this way you can use these phrasing ideas and you don't have to worry as much about what note am I going to play. So here's the notes that I'm going to play. Let me show you really quick. The first note that we're going to play is your second finger playing the 9th fret on your 3rd string. The second note is your first finger playing the 8th fret on your 2nd string. And then your 3rd finger is going to play the 10th fret on the 2nd string. And then we're going to go to the 1st string and we're going to play your 8th fret with your 1st finger. And then your 10th fret with your 3rd finger again. So those 5 notes those are the 5 notes that you need to have down. I recommend that you start getting used to those 5 notes and using this to really get used to these different phrasing ideas. Now, commonly, those 5 notes are referred to as the BB box. It's a shape that B.B. King was known for playing a lot, and it's actually really nice because it's convenient to play, it's easy, so have fun with the BB box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on this loop, and what I'm going to do is I'm only going to play those notes, and I'm only going to vary my rhythm. I'm not going to mess with any other phrasing stuff. I'm just going to mess with my rhythm, and I'm going to show you things like you can play your notes more than once, and how just changing up your rhythm with how you play those notes is going to help you sound better. Okay, now I'm going to keep it to a few notes. I'm keeping this really simple. So let's check this out and see how just a little bit of rhythm is going to make your soloing sound better. So I kept that really simple. That was only 3 notes of those 5. I played on the 3rd and 2nd strings, and that was it. But just by changing up the rhythm that I was using, it makes it way more interesting. Because a very common misconception that most beginners have is they can't play a note more than once. And you can, but you make it more interesting by changing up your rhythm and thinking about, what would the rhythm be if I were speaking this? Okay, so just simple things like playing it totally change it from just being really simple and sound like you're playing a scale, which we don't want. We want to sound like we're actually playing music. So pay attention to your rhythm, and what I recommend doing is just getting a simple backing track like this, like a blues in A, okay? And practice paying attention to your rhythm, and don't worry about anything else. Just focus on your rhythm for the time being. So have some fun with that. Let's go on to number 2. Number 2 is going to be slides. The next thing that we need to do is we need to learn how to slide from one note to another note, and there's all sorts of fun stuff that you can do with slides. Now you can slide up in pitch. So for example, from the 8th fret to the 10th fret on the 2nd string like this. Or I can slide down going from 10 to 8. Okay, and we can use this in different ways, okay? There are different things that you can do with slides, because I could slide into the note that I'm playing. So I could start like here on my 7th fret on the 3rd string and slide into 9, but you don't really hear the 7th fret much. So I'm just sliding and keeping my finger pressed down the whole time as I slide up to the 9th fret, okay? And by doing that, you get that really cool sound, right? Or this can be more of a legato technique where we're moving from one note to another and just trying to do it as smoothly as we can. In the case of like if we were sliding from 8 to 10 or from 10 to 8. In that case, you pick the first note, you hear it, and then you execute your slide. But remember, if you don't leave your finger down, it's not going to sound out. You're going to release it, and then the string will stop vibrating, and your slide will be totally ineffective. Now, one other thing I forgot to mention, we can slide into notes, we can slide from note to note, but we can also slide out of a note. So that means we could hit a note, and then we could slide out of it by either going up, like this, or we could slide down. So you can slide into a note by starting below that note and sliding up into the note. Or you can start above the note and slide into it from above. So you're sliding down into it. So let's see how these are going to sound when we throw that together with the backing track. So this time I'm going to focus more on slides. So slides are a great way to make your playing more interesting, make things smooth. There's lots of different ways that you can play with them and use them. So make sure that you spend some time with a backing track or record yourself with a looper like I did and just play along with that. You can even do that on your phone. Just record yourself into the voice memo app or GarageBand or whatever on your phone. There's all sorts of different apps that you can do that for, and then you just play along over that live. So spend some time working with your slides, and let's go on to number 3. Number 3 is hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now this also gets called legato because it does make your playing sound nice and smooth going from one note to another because there's no articulation of the pick. So normally, if we go from a lower note to a higher note, we're picking that. But if we use a hammer-on, what we're doing is we're using our fretting hand fingers to hammer onto the string, which means we're going to press down on it as fast as we can onto a higher fret so that this vibration from the string transfers to the new fret so we hear a new note. And so that makes it sound nice and smooth like this. Now, a pull-off is the exact opposite of that. A pull-off is where we start with a higher note and we use our other fingers. So, for example, I'm going to start with my 3rd finger on this, and I'm going to have my 1st finger in place, and then I'm going to pull my 3rd finger off of the string and do it quickly enough that the vibration of the string transfers to the lower finger so that now we hear that new lower note, and that sounds like this. So a hammer-on is going higher, and a pull-off is going lower. Hammer-ons and pull-offs are great because it takes a lot of work out of your picking hand. You can just focus on getting the notes that you want, and all the work is over here. Now, if you want to be really cool, you start to combine your hammer-ons with your pull-offs. So check this out. You can take just 8 and 10 on your first string and hammer on, and then pull off. Now that's a lot of fun, and it's something that you can work up. It's a cool lick that you can just get used to. But you just start slow by doing hammer on, pull off, hammer on, pull off. Now let's take a look at throwing in some hammer-ons and pull-offs. We can also still focus on rhythm and slides, but the biggest thing for this time is going to be hammer-ons and pull-offs. So hammer-ons and pull-offs, again, also called legato. And when you start to combine that with your slides and with your rhythm and the other stuff that we're going to talk about, hammer-ons and pull-offs will save your life. They are one of the most essential phrasing techniques. So now let's go on to number 4. Phrasing idea number 4 that you've got to know and get down are bends. Bends are when we play a note on a string, and then we either push the string up to the ceiling or we pull it down towards the floor. And either way, no matter which way you do it, it's going to make your note go higher. Okay, so for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the 8th fret on my 2nd string. I'm going to push up to the ceiling. And the reason why I'm pushing up to the ceiling for this is because with my 2nd string, if I pull down to the floor, my string is going to come off the fretboard. So what I'm going to do though is I want to bend up to another note in the scale. Okay, when I was starting out, I would just bend randomly. Like I would just try different notes. But here's the thing, save yourself some time and error, some frustration. It's still good to go through and experiment, but you want to bend to another note in the scale that is being used, or another note of the chord that's being played. Okay, you want to bend to a note that's gonna sound good, right? So in this case, I'm gonna start on my 8th fret and bend up to the note of my 10th fret. So I'm playing my G note right here, and I'm gonna bend up to this A. And so to do that, I'm going to use my 2nd finger because my 2nd finger is the strongest, but I'm also going to put my 1st finger on the string behind it, and I'm going to hit that. And that is how you do the bend. You just push it up. Now, it's important for leverage, you want to make sure that you're gripping the back of your neck, okay? I bring my thumb over the top, and now I've got my neck resting right here, okay? And that gives me plenty of leverage to get my wrist and my forearm into that bend, and that makes it a lot easier to bend. The problem that most people have when they first start bending is they try to do it all with just their fingers. And you can do that, but it's harder. It would be a lot harder if my thumb was in the back of the neck and I tried to just push it up. That's harder. So to make it easy, I put my thumb up here on the top, and that makes it so much easier and so much more comfortable. So let's see how that sounds with the backing. just a quick example, really quick, of how you can use some of those bends and have fun with it. Now, I did mention you want to either push the string up to the ceiling or pull it down towards the floor, and you want to get used to both, because on your lower strings, you're not going to be able to... If I push my 6th string or my 5th string up, they go off the fretboard, right? So you want to be used to both, okay? You got to be able to push and pull your bends. Number 5, the coolest sounding phrasing thing that you can do is vibrato. Now, vibrato is something that I was never formally taught until I'd been playing for like 10 years, okay? It was something that was kind of elusive to me, and teaching myself, I played it wrong. I used bad vibrato. Now, what vibrato is when you bend and release a note rapidly. That is called vibrato. But here's the thing. You don't want your vibrato to just be on autopilot. You actually want to take the time to develop your vibrato and get control over it so that you're doing your vibrato on purpose and so that it actually sounds good every single time. There are players out there with great vibrato, and there are players out there with terrible vibrato, even some really famous ones, okay? So make sure that you spend some time developing it. But anything worth doing is worth doing badly to get started. So even if you suck right now with vibrato, that's okay. Here's how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna do this on the 10th fret of the 2nd string, and all I'm gonna do is bend it up a little bit and release it. And then I'm gonna just do that. Now, when you're starting out, you wanna really take your time and do it very, very slowly. If you work on doing this slow, it's going to help you gain the muscle control that you need to do this really well. And there's several other factors that we can talk about, but for now, we're going to keep it really simple. You're going to bend the note, you're going to release the note. That's it, okay? So bend the note, release it. And again, just like with bends, you can do vibrato by pushing up to the ceiling or pulling down to the floor. One of those ways is going to feel more natural to you, but you want to work on doing both. So let's see how some vibrato will make your playing sound if we throw that in as a beginner guitar player. Thing that you can do to make your vibrato sound awesome, apart from working on it and trying to develop it, is delay your vibrato sometimes. You don't want to just always immediately engage the vibrato and just throw it on the note once you play it like this. You don't want to just go... You don't want to just do that all the time. Sometimes you want to play the note, let it ring out, and then apply the vibrato to it. And that is called delayed vibrato, right? Really fancy name, isn't it? So try that out. Now, just like with all 5 of these, you want to make sure that you spend some time just soloing, using just these 5 notes even, and start paying attention to these different phrasing ideas. Because when you use these, either in isolation, you can focus on, okay, right now I'm just going to focus on rhythm. Right now, I'm just going to focus on slides. Right now, I'm just going to focus on hammer-ons and pull-offs. Right now, I'm just going to do bends. And right now, I'm just going to focus on vibrato. That's good to do. But what you need to do after that is start integrating these different skills together. So start stacking them. You know, use your rhythm all the time, but then throwing in your different stuff. Do some hammer-ons and slides together. Or hammer on into a slide, or do a slide and then a pull off. Do different things like that and start combining these different ideas, and that is where your phrasing is really going to start to come alive and really be expressive and make you sound awesome. So I hope that was helpful for you, because I wish when I was starting out somebody had told me this, but these are the 5 top beginner phrasing concepts that you've got to know and got to be able to use. So I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, do me a favor and leave me a comment down below. But I also have a gift for you. If you go to my website at simpleguitar.com/top10, there I have my top 10 things to learn on the guitar first, and it's a 17-page guide that is 10 things I think that every beginner guitar player should know, because it gets you a lot of bang for your buck, and it's a lot of fun. So go to simpleguitar.com/top10, download that guide, start using these phrasing concepts, have fun with that guide, and I will see you in the next video.